Go down here and lower that bit so that the bearing is riding on the template. Or another way of doing it is the top of the carbide right here is right at the top of the cut, right? Right there. We want to make sure, I'm going to lock it in. We want to make sure that that carbide cutter is cutting all of our wood. All right, we're set to the right height. We're ready to start flush trimming this top rail. Now, whenever you have a small diameter router bit in there, you always want to turn the speed of your router up as fast as it'll go. And you'll see what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be making contact with my template out here. I don't want to start on the wood. I'm going to start out here, stop the bearing, and then you'll see me make the cut just like that. All right? So we're going to turn the speed up on the router. On the template, see? You can see now we made that top rail the same exact shape as whatever template we happen to be using. The next thing we have to do is we have to make this profile cut right here on the top of the rail on to this rail right here. So we're going to change bits and put the pattern cutting back in and show you how we make that cut. We've got our pattern cutting bit back into our router, and we had to reset that to the correct height as we did our original stiles and rails. Now, we're going to take this arched top here now, and the template will make contact with that bearing on the top of our cutter, and we're going to make our cut just like we did with our flush trim bit a little while ago. So we're going to make that cut right now. Show you how it's done. Right there is our pattern cut made to fit on our arched glass panel door. Okay, there's our glass panel door. We have it just dry clamped together with my hands here now. And I'll explain a little bit about the back here when you cut your glass. You can see we have a curve. You have to cut the glass at a curve, and it's fairly easy to do with a glass cutter once you get the hang of it. If you'd rather not do that, what you have to do is take a straight bit on a router and just mill all this piece out right in here. I'll mill all this out with a straight bit, and then you can cut a square piece of glass and drop in like that. Either way will work. But that's your arched glass panel door. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take that arched glass panel door that I have here, and we're going to show you how we're going to make divided lights into that glass panel door. We're ready to start making our divided light door. And to cut our muttons and mullions, here's how we figure dimensioning on that. Remember how our door was 12 inches wide? We subtracted 4 to get our rail at 8 inches. Well, same thing goes up and down. If our door we're 2 7/16 here, and our templates automatically give you a 2 7/16 inch reveal at its narrowest point. So just assume this is a regular square door, 2 7/16, 2 7/16. So if our door is 20 inches long, let's say, I subtract 4, and that gives me 16 inches for this mutton right here. So it's very easy. I know the length of this, it's 16 inches. Okay, now I need to find the length of these two pieces. These are two separate pieces. Well, if this piece on the bottom of our rails are 8 inches, this combined length is going to be 8 inches also, but we're bypassing in the middle here. We're not connecting. Well, what's that measurement? Here's how we figure it. Remember our profile cuts 7/16 here and 7/16 inch here. 7/16 and 7/16 is 7/8, right? I always cut all of my muttons and mullions 1 1/8 inches. So 1 1/8 minus 7/8 leaves me with 1/4 of an inch right here in the middle where I'm not connecting with these two pieces. So if I divide that 1/4 of an inch into this piece and this piece, that means I have to subtract 1/8 of an inch off of this one and 1/8 of an inch off of that one. So if this is 8 inches, this would be 4 and 4, but we subtract an 1/8 and an 1/8. So these two pieces here will be 3 7/8 inches long. And all of our muttons and mullions are 1 1/8. Okay, now the first one I'm going to make is the long one. We always make the long ones first, 16 inches. And if you're doing a bunch of doors and they're all the same, let's say, which happens a lot, we're going to cut, let's say we're going to cut 2 or 3 of these that are going to be 16 inches long. Well, we have to cut the cope cuts first, remember? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wide piece, and it's easier to do this anyway. This piece is 16 inches, see? And we're going to cut our cope cuts, and this is going to be our muttons and mullions are going to be taken out of this piece. So we're going to cut our cope cuts all at once for all those pieces. We have our cope cutter set back in our router table, and we're going to next cut the cope cuts for our long muttons here. Okay, we've got our cope cutter set to the right height as we originally had. We're going to cut the cope cuts for all of our muttons and mullions right here. Okay, there's our cope cuts for our 1 1/8 inch muttons and mullions we're going to take out of here now. So now, what we're going to do is change bits, and I'm going to cut my pattern cut on one side right there. Okay, we're ready to change bits again, and what's nice about changing our bits, remember all we have to do is take that cope cutter out, drop the pattern cutting bit in, and we're good to go, right like that. Okay, now we're going to bring our fence over. Our fence drops into our pivot point. There's my bearing. We'll get our fence flush with the bearing, and we're ready to start cutting the pattern cut. Right there. Now, remember, we always put the good side down. These are our muttons and mullions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a pattern cut on this side and a pattern cut on that side using my push block. Okay, you can see we made that pattern cut, and you can hear a little bit of chipping on the router bit and everything, but we made that cut in one pass. Remember previously we took 2 passes, so you can do it in one pass if you want. But there's our 2 muttons and mullions. I'm going to get one out of here and one over here. So now I'm going to take it back to the table saw, set it for 1 1/8 inches, and I'm going to rip out one piece here and one piece here for 2 different doors. Okay, you can see we cut these into 1 1/8 inch strips with the pattern cut there and the pattern cut there. We have to do the other side now, but you can imagine if we started out with 1 1/8 to begin with, how difficult it would be. And I used to do this, kind of run it through like that, but we figured out a better way of doing it in sections like this. So what we need to do now is we still have a problem. We got the one side done, we have to go and do the other side. So turn around, and there's no way we're going to be able to hold it like this, so that's why we got to make a jig. And remember previously when we used that cope cutter? That's the cope cutter is the opposite of this cutter. Well, remember when we made that cope cut into that long sled right here? That cope cutting cut right there is the opposite of this pattern cut. Well, opposites attract, so that allows me to engage this piece into here. Now I can very safely take this thing and run it through with one hand using my push block screwed down to my jig. But the only thing is, when that bit's turning at high speed, it's going to want to come in here and kick this thing back. So what we got to do to prevent that is put a stop on our sled. And you can see right here where our cope cut's made, all I have is a little stop right here. And that stop is going to go right there. I'm going to screw it in, and that'll prevent that kickback. So let's screw this in. I'm going to bring it around. Take my screw gun right here, There, now we got our stop, and our piece is not going to come, it's going to stop. So now we can make our pattern cut very safely. And again, we'll show you making the cut in one pass. Even though that's a big rabbit cut, we'll make it in a slow speed, and we'll make it in one pass. Right there is how easily and safely you can cut your muttons and mullions with that jig right there. We've got our 2 cope cuts, nice pattern cut. Now, that piece is going to be fitting right into the middle right there. What we have to do next is cut these 2 shorter pieces, and I'll show you how we do that next. Okay, now we're ready to take, and we've got the long ones done, but we're going to take this long one now and cut the other side, and we're going to cut that into our short pieces, our 3 7/8 inch pieces. So let's load this into our sled here now, and we'll make our pattern cut on the other side. Okay, now all we have to do is take this, and we're going to take this back to our miter sled, and we're going to cut this into the right lengths, which are 3 7/8, which I've already done on this section right here. You can see we've got our muttons and mulls to the right lengths now, 3 7/8, a bunch of them. A couple of them already have the cope cuts cut from the 2 ends. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is cut the cope cut on the other end. And while we're doing it, let's cut the cope cuts on the ends of these too. So what we're going to do next is change bits and put the cope cutter back in. Okay, we're ready to take that pattern cutting bit out of there again and insert the cope cutter right on our rubber grommet. Makes it easy. Insert ring goes in, and we're ready to make our cope cuts. So what we have to do is move the fence in here again and get it flush with that bearing like we always do. Now what we have to do is we've got the cope cut done here already. We have to take and cut a cope cut here. And I tell you what, there's no way we're going to use that little push block again, put my hands in here and do that. What we used to do is cut a little cope cut into here, insert this into here, but we found a better way yet. What we did, remember those 2 jigs we made earlier that we cut the cope cuts all the way around? We're going to use that as we're going to make a sandwich. We're going to sandwich this little mutton and mull right in there like that. And we're going to put this one in here like that. And we can hold that together. Now, when we make our cope cut on the end grain there, there's going to be no chippage because it's going to be 1 unit as we pass it through, right like this. Okay? So we'll just come into here, turn our router on, and make our cope cuts. Very easy way of cutting cope cuts on small pieces. We can take that out and there's no chipping at all, okay? So we'll do that on the remainder of our muttons and mulls, and we'll be ready to take and put our divided light door together. Okay, we've got our divided light door kind of dry clamped up here now. You can see what I did. I found the center of my bottom rail and the center of my top rail so I can line my mutton there. We found the center where we want these pieces going here, and did that. And once you find the outside 2, take a square and transfer it across and put a mark in the center so you get these 2 pieces going straight with each other. All right. You can see though, right now we got a little bit of a problem here. This bottom rail is sticking down maybe just a fraction, a 32nd of an inch here, you know, and we're a little bit shy, and the reason is we're a little bit shy here on our top mutton here. So the reason because of that is because the backs of our muttons and mullions are cut square where we have an arch here. So what we have to do is we have to take and sand, just take some sandpaper and sand that rounded just a little bit of a radius on that back side of that cope cut. That's all you have to do, okay, to get that to fit. The other thing, when we used when we sandwiched and cut these, we didn't get any chipping going on, but what we did, if you look really close right here, we got a little bit of fuzz there, see? What I like to do there is take some fine sandpaper and just back sand that, right like this, see? On each side. I'll do that on all the 4 pieces, okay? Same, I'll just dress them up like that. And it should be just a little bit of a curve there. Okay? That kind of cleans them up nice, gets rid of the fuzz to make a nice door. All right, what we're going to do next now is I'm going to take this out, sand my back of my cope, and then we're going to insert and show you how we glue up this divided light door. Okay, we've got our middle mutton here all sanded here on the cope cut so it fits into here. And we got our 2 middle pieces coming into here. Now, if you've ever attempted to glue up one of these divided light doors, it could be a nightmare for you. What you have to do is glue your cope cuts on your regular door. There's 4. Your cope cuts here, 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 and here, 4 more, and inside here, that's 2 more. That's about 10 different places you're gluing, and it can become kind of a hard thing to do. So what I like to do is take this middle section and glue this up independently of that. And then I'm going to treat this like a regular raised panel door and insert it into my glass panel door like that, let's say. So to glue this now, I like to use it when I'm doing the divided lights. This glue we have here, it's called 2P10. 2 parts, 10 seconds. All you have to do is put 1 drop of this glue right where you want to glue it. Let's put 1 drop right here. And this part, this is my activator. It activates it, and you don't have to worry about that staining the wood or anything. We'll put the 2 together right there and hold it. 10 seconds. That's why it's called 2P10. 2 parts, 10 seconds, you're set. Okay? So it makes it a lot easier gluing up the doors with this type of glue. Take my other mutt. Like I said, this evaporates right away and you can stain right over it. We'll put this one directly across from it. And we hold that about another 10 seconds. Okay, now when we're ready to start gluing up this door, we're going to use a regular tight bond glue and glue up the joints here. And also I use tight bond here on these 4 corners here. It's a lot easier to glue up that door. So that's what we'll do next. We'll bring our tight bond glue in here and glue up our door. Okay, we've got the door all glued up now, and that's our divided light door with the arch top. And this divided light door has 4 separate divisions, as you can see. On the back, when you put your glass in, you're going to have to cut 4 different pieces of glass. Okay? Now, I personally don't like that. I like to get lazy and have 1 piece of glass in there, but still have it look like a divided light on the front. Now, if I'm going to do that, what I have to do, that means I have to get rid of these dividers, these little fins right here that separate the glass. And I'll show you how we're going to do that with our next bit. Okay, that next bit we're going to use is the same bit we used on the